Hello, music fans. Welcome to Bands and Beers with Brennen. I'm your host, Brennen. The band we're talking about today is Intervals, an excellent progressive metal band that makes mostly instrumental music but had one album with vocals. The beer today is Hell's Lager by Wellington Brewery, and my guest today is Joey. Super happy to get to chat with you today. We started the band for Forbidden Conjecture together. I played guitar, he played drums. But it's been a while since we did any of that stuff. Want to introduce yourself, Joey?
Yeah, I'm Joey Robert. Like you said, we were in a band together. I like a lot of different metal music. These days, I kind of lean towards the instrumental, sort of progressive elements of metal. So these two bands are right up my alley for sure. And interested in breaking them down. And I have my own beer today too. It's the Sam Roberts Band Ale, which is
music theme.
Yeah, music theme, and it's actually from a local brewery here in Kingston. And it's funny, you actually introduced me to this beer as well. Like the one time you drove up to Kingston there, you brought some beers over. I was like, oh, this is actually really good. So cool. I go there all the time.
That's good. Yeah, this one's from Guelph, and I've been ordering a lot of local Kitchener, Waterloo, Guelph beers just online during the pandemic, and just getting them delivered right to my home.
I support local.
Yeah, a lot of these breweries, if you have an order of like $50 or over, some of them have like a minimum limit, but if you pass that, they'll deliver right to your door.
Right.
That's good.
That is awesome. I did actually try this too, the delivery with Sam Roberts.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. So the format here is ranking the studio LPs of Intervals best to worst. They only have 3 LPs. We could kind of briefly talk about the EPs too, if you have any like highlights that you want to mention from that. But I'll let you go first.
Sure. Yeah.
Favorite is. And
Are we going favorite to least favorite? Okay.
We go least favorite to favorite.
Okay. Okay. Well, I threw the EPs in my ranking, but I can just skip over them and go to the LPs. So.
I guess let's touch on the EPs first then. Assuming they're lower in your ranking, or are they high in your ranking?
They are lower. They are the bottom 2, only because of just the lack of content. You know, there are only 5 songs. You can't really place them above some, like, the albums are so intricate. They have so many different varied themes, versus the EPs seem to be like single note themes. The songs will have obviously variations between them, but so my number 5 is The Space Between, which is their intro album, their intro EP. It starts off like pretty genty, you know, like for the time. Like it really reminds me of like the intro song reminds me of Periphery, New Groove. It's just like a single note with a cool like atmospheric sound in the background. But yeah, so are we doing songs too at this point, or are we just doing albums first?
I guess as we mention each album, we could say a favorite song for me.
Cool. So I picked Still Winning, which I think is the second song on the album, and it's just got a nice flow to it.
We have the same opinion actually. The Space Between was my lowest rank out of the EPs, and I also like Still Winning the best. Yep. I didn't really take too many notes on the EPs because I focused more on the LPs for today.
That's fair.
And then I guess next would be for both of us In Time.
Yes, yeah, In Time. I thought it was both interesting, In Time and The Space Between, and even the name Intervals. All 3 of those things are like music analogies to me. Like The Space Between is like a breakdown, and then the pause, you know, between. Yeah,
I actually noticed that too. The album titles do seem to be like describing the music. Even I think all of them do. The band name being Intervals. The distance between 2 notes. The space between could be like a rest between 2 notes, or it could also be describing an interval. And then In Time, like music passes in time. That's how you describe rhythm.
Yeah, it's a great way. It's a great naming scheme because it has a meaning to musicians, but it has a completely different meaning to non-musicians that are just listening. It can mean like, the space between. It's like, oh, there's tension, that sort of thing. Yeah. So for In Time, I picked Tapestry because it has a really good breakdown and a really good solo as well. And it just had probably the more unique sound on the album.
Yeah, Tapestry is a good song. I think my favorite from In Time was Epiphany,
Okay,
but Tapestry is probably my second favorite.
nice.
All right, now we're at the LPs. How about your least favorite of the LPs?
Cool. Well, nods off to Intervals for using the Canadian version of Color and supporting Canadian, language. But The Shape of Color is probably my least favorite of the LPs.
Yeah.
Still, really, really intricate, really diverse album. It seems to be more like he was trying to infuse like sort of atmospheric or like poppy elements into his song structure as opposed to like straight gent or straight progressive.
Yeah.
But just my least favorite. It just doesn't go as hard as the other two. And for my favorite song, though, it's I'm Awake. I think that was pretty good.
All right, and my least favorite of the LPs is actually their newest one, The Way Forward from 2017, their third full-length album. It's one of their two instrumental LPs. I think it's their jazziest album, which is kind of neat.
Yes.
And there's barely any gent vibes anymore. It's kind of like they started out full-blown gent with not as much jazz fusion stuff, and then they moved more away from the gent and more towards bringing in these like jazzy elements. And that's kind of how I hear it.
Yeah, you can definitely see the progression of like Aaron as a musician just going this other way where he doesn't want to stay locked down to a specific heavy genre. He really likes to explore his musicianship.
Yeah, it's less heavy. It's more melodic. It's still really good. I should say that Intervals doesn't really have any bad albums.
Yes, I agree.
So I like them all. My favorite song on The Way Forward would be Touch and Go, which is the opening track. It's got amazingly playfully jazzy lead guitars, excellent phrasing, great guitar player. Probably my second favorite on that would be A Different Light. The third track, also jazzy. There's some keys, and the drums of that one kind of sound like they have a little like Latin or salsa influence in them, which is kind of cool. So he definitely does gather like a wide array of influences, which I found cool.
Yeah, the drums are like low-key good. Everyone focuses on Aaron being like this crazy virtuoso guitarist, but I think for The Way Forward, it was just their studio, their live drummer. He's not officially a member of Intervals, but they really knock it out of the park.
Yeah,
with
it's
the
really
drums.
well done. I mean, it is definitely a guitar-centric band. With Aaron Marshall being kind of just the main songwriter, and I guess I don't know if he's like the only real member of the band, and it's all basically like a touring.
Technically, he is now. If you go to the Wikipedia page, it's like 2016 or 2017. All the other members left.
Yeah.
And there were some really good members too. I really like their old drummer, Anoop Sastry, which.
Oh yeah.
By the way, if you ever want to listen to more of this type of music, he does have his own albums that he's released.
I've heard that. I haven't actually listened to them yet, but he is a great drummer, so maybe I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, it's along the same vein, and I heard it described that like when he was doing his guitars for these albums, he's not a guitarist, so he would do guitars like single samples or multiple notes at a time, and then just cut them all together.
Oh wow!
So
he didn't actually like hire a studio guitarist. He kind of just like did a lot of editing. Used the computer.
It's a lot of arrangement like that. So. But they're pretty good, and they have some good sounds. He's like a sound engineer too by trade. So, but for the Way Forward, so I got to say that was my first ranked one because I like the direction that they took it.
Oh yeah.
But my favorite track for that was Impulsively Responsible, which it has this really nice like breakdown about a minute or 2 minutes in that is very poppy, but it just hits different. Like you don't expect it, and then it just like stops for this certain amount of time. And it's just incredibly catchy, so I like that song. Different Light, there's like very epic vocals, which I thought is there vocals on just this one track?
Is there vocals in this? I don't even remember there being vocals on this album.
Yeah, there was a bit of confusion, I think, on my end too. I think the mix I was listening to might have had some poorly ripped songs in there, so But A Different Light, that was pretty good. And then Rubicon Artist, I wrote, has like a nice flow around a central theme. It kind of keeps coming back, but it goes off in a different direction. Comes back. That's good.
Awesome. So, what about your second favorite interval?
Well, yeah, through process of elimination, the second favorite here is A Voice Within, which you can tell they catered the songs around the singer this time around. I didn't actually listen. I know like after all the members left, he re-released this version sans vocals.
Yeah.
So I haven't listened to that because I feel like it stands on its own with the vocals.
Yeah, for sure.
It's got to be the Intervals album I've listened to the most of all of them. And just because, it's pretty catchy, it's pretty listenable. It doesn't go as hard in any particular direction, I think, as any of the other albums do. Like you said, The Way Forward is probably the jazziest album. A Voice Within tries to be the most poppiest, tries to cater the vocals the most.
Yeah.
But it does still have some really, really good riffs. And in that, I put Atlas Hour as my favorite song. Mainly on that same theme, the best combination of vocals and the interval style.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, my second favorite is actually The Shape of Color from 2015. Their second album, still instrumental. And my favorite track from that would be I'm Awake, the opening track. Amazing intro riff. Love the use of harmonics in it. Great leads. And maybe another song to call out from that one would be Meridian. It's got a nice slow melodic intro. Really awesome riff kicks in 1 minute in, and it's kind of maybe the happiest kind of major key sounding riff from Intervals that I can remember. It's very joyful sounding, and lots of use of whammy bar in that song, so got a lot of joy to it, which I thought was really cool and
interesting.
Like, I think on the EPs, they're probably like the darkest music that Intervals does. Like, it's all kind of like more metal and like minor keys and like low down tune, genty stuff. And I don't think there's as many like joyful, kind of happy sounding riffs, but in the later work and especially on this one, there's more like bright, happy sounding riffs, which is kind of cool. Normally I listen to more stuff that's kind of more of a like minor, sad, angry kind of sounding stuff, but here's some happy, joyful stuff too.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely sounds like he's singing sometimes with his guitar. Like, it sounds like he's really trying to bring out this like amazing vocal melody, but it's on a guitar, and it's just it's really good. So I agree with you. Yeah, I do like the happy stuff too, and that really does remind me of another band that I would consider to have some happy riffs, which is Polyphia.
Oh yeah.
On their what's their main album there? I'm blanking on it.
But them as well. I have seen them live, and I've listened to them a little bit.
Oh really? You saw them? That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember when. I'm pretty sure they opened for some band that I really like. It was maybe they toured with, I don't know, who did they tour with? Between the Buried and Me? Did they tour with Intervals? I'm not actually sure.
Could be. I think Renaissance is the album I was thinking of, but there's a lot of happy riffs on it that lead me to believe that you can actually pull off happy music and metal music at the same time and still be like kind of cool. Yeah, I remember Polyphia having some kind of, they're like instrumental prog metal, but did they have some that kind of almost sound like hip hop-y kind of? Yeah, so they had this EP in 2017 called The Most Hated, which is their biggest infusion of just like hip-hoppy sounds of just like generated like synths and samples and that sort of thing, on top of just like this virtuoso like guitar playing. I think that's around the time I saw them, so I think I saw them play a lot of that stuff live. Interesting. And it's kind of the opposite of their latest album, the New Levels, New Devils, which is very dark. Like, it is very very minor, very like it almost puts you on edge a little bit, like when you listen to it. But yeah, so slight divergence to Polyphia, but it is funny too. Like, Aaron actually has a couple guest solos on Polyphia albums. So like Sweet Tea and a few others. I think he was there on the really early, their first LP.
Yeah, I think he brings in some guest guitarists too in intervals. I'm looking at the track list from The Shape of Color, and it looks like they have one that features Pliny, another
Yep.
instrumental prog metal person.
Very good.
Yeah, there's a few features on interval stuff, which is cool to bring in some guests, just to have like bring out a different voice in one of the solos.
Hmm.
Another band, I guess we're kind of on a tangent, but
We are on a tangent.
okay, this is going to be a shorter video because they only have 3 LPs, so it's shorter than most of the videos I made in this show so far.
Sure.
Most of the bands have like 4 or 5. Some we did Dream Theater, they had like I don't know, what is 14, 16? I don't even remember, a lot.
That would be an effort unless you know that discography back to front. That'd be a hard, like, you'd have to really listen to a lot of music.
But yeah, another band, as we were talking about Polyphia and Intervals, another one that is kind of similar is Sean. I don't know if you've heard them, but
I have heard of them. I've not really listened to them.
they also had an album that kind of brought in some hip hop influences in 2017 as well. So they really remind me of Polyphia. They have an album called Homie that has some vocals, like they collaborated with some hip hop type people. But it's actually really cool. It's one of my favorite albums by them. But then in 2019 they went to a more like darker, more metal instrumental sound again, which was interesting. It reminded me a lot of the path of Polyphia that you were talking about. I wonder if they're probably like buddies.
Yeah, there's this whole network of musicians that just kind of like do guest collabs and that sort of thing, or are influenced by each other. They just maybe that was the theme of the time in 2017. Because I'm thinking of so I wasn't super into Chan, like I said, but Volumes was another one that they've got some hip hop influence to them too, and generally their music is pretty bouncy, pretty like easy to vibe to in general. It's not like super hard gent, although they have some of those elements. It's supposed to be sort of like catchy. And their record in 2017 has this song called Hope, and another one called I'm blanking on it as well, On Her Mind, which are both rap songs basically, surrounded by this like really heavy riffing. So maybe it was the theme 2017.
Yeah, I think so. I guess that leaves me at my favorite Intervals album. I haven't mentioned that yet, but by Process of Elimination, mine's A Voice Within. Their 2014 album, their first full-length album, only album with a vocalist. It's definitely my favorite by them. And I do generally prefer music that has vocals because I find vocals often feature the memorable melodic hooks that make me really remember a song. I know there's this. We're talking about a lot of this awesome world of instrumental prog metal, and I love and respect a lot of those artists as well. We do check them out from time to time, but I'm finding a lot of the artists that I consider like my favorites and legendary artists that I listen to over and over again, like they do have vocals, and I tend to go back to that stuff.
Well, yeah, it definitely adds something else to the whole mix, right? It adds a completely different dynamic and timbre and that sort of thing. So,
for sure. And then my favorite song on A Voice Within is Moment Marauder.
That one's good.
Song on the album. I love the finger tapping intro riff. Awesome genty rhythms in that song. Really cool. Like they put their guitar into clean mode, and they have some low chugging clean riffs that are really fast. Great vocals on this album. I really like this vocalist. I think he was also the vocalist of a band called Heart Machine, if I recall correctly. And I checked out that band, and they had a pretty cool. They've only made one full-length album so far, and I don't think he's with that band anymore, so I don't think he'll be on their next album. But he was on their first album, and that was pretty cool as well.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, it's definitely the one I've listened to the most. I can't really fault this album. There's a lot of long songs on it too, which is interesting. Like one 8-minute, one 7-minute, one another 8-minute song. So Lots
Okay.
of lots of good content here.
Yeah, not long when you compare to some of the other bands I've talked about on this
That's
channel,
true.
like Dream Theater and or Between the Buried and Me, but definitely long for Intervals. Intervals does tend to stay pretty concise, even though they're prog metal. They don't usually do like 24-minute epics or things like that. That some of these, I feel like you kind of have to have vocals if you're gonna do something like that to like help the journey of the song. Although maybe I could be proven wrong. There's probably some awesome like 24-minute instrumental songs out there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just about keeping the listener engaged. If you're gonna do 24 minutes of solid metal, there better be some like interesting riffs in there. You can't sort of like repeat the same
Yeah.
riff for 24 minutes.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's basically gotta be like prog and have like interludes and all these different sections and cool atmospheric stuff.
Yeah, like I find Intervals always brings it to a place where the end result sounds good, and this is just
Yeah.
like a knock, I guess, on some progressive bands where they will just go over the board, over the line progressive, where it's hard to follow. It's that sort of thing.
Yeah, there are some
Time. It can be difficult, but yeah, they always try to bring it back to a place where it's like a well-rounded song. And that's what I like.
Yeah. I don't think they're like. I think Intervals has progressive influences, but I don't think that the main objective is to try to be progressive. I think that they are trying to make good songs and catchy songs. They probably do try to bring out the shred a little bit, but even that, it's not like complete shred wankery. Like it's very melodic, and they try to have a hook in the guitar leads and things like that. So it's not like there are some bands where it's just like all about virtuosity, or where it's all about like being the most progressive or avant-garde and having the jarring transitions. There's not that much of this in Intervals. The songs flow very well and kind of have a simple theme.
Yeah, and that's definitely the challenge of like pushing the envelope, which is what these like progressive bands that you were talking about try to do. They try to push the envelope and do something that hasn't been done before, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But Intervals, I think, tries to pull it off without making it too jarring. So yeah, that's why they're kind of up there for me as a favorite band. I'm wearing my Intervals shirt, by the way.
Oh, sweet.
So I got that on. I think I wore this to a concert or two we went to.
Oh, nice.
And it was funny. I was wearing it at one of the concerts we were at, and Aaron Marshall was there, and he just like waved me down and shook my hand and was just like, "You're an Intervals fan." Like, yeah, just
Sweet.
said hi to him.
Oh, like he was in the audience.
He was in the
I
audience.
He was in the audience at a lot of shows. Yeah, I think he goes to a lot of the Toronto shows, like I don't know, Protest the Hero, Between the Buried and Me, that kind of thing. I see those bands a lot.
Yeah,
you see him there.
that's true.
I am not wearing an Intervals shirt, just a boring green shirt. Put my camera down so it's not just my head here.
Nice.
Yeah, I guess that kind of concludes our chat on Intervals. I hope people checking out this video found something cool that they hadn't heard before. I'll put a Spotify link in the description. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.